Hey, this is Khalid Farouk Hayek with Urban Kids Universe, and welcome to another episode of Impacting Education Show, where we help ECEs, childcare directors, homeschoolers, and parents make an impact. Today, I have Drola Suko with me. Did I say the name right?
You said it perfectly.
Awesome. Okay, let me introduce her to you guys. So she is an early childhood educator with 9 years of child care experience. She also has 8-year experience working with atypical children and children with special needs such as ADHD and ODD. And she also helped and organize and run a nonprofit organization, which is a summer camp organization.
Mhm.
And right now, she's teaching early childhood education for a program for adults who are passionate of teaching kids like she is, right?
That's right. Yes, that's a
Welcome to
great.
the show. Welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you so much, Khaled.
Awesome. Today, we're going to talk about nap time and how important it is, right?
Yes.
But since this is your first time on the show, I would like to give you the chance that you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure.
Where are you located here? And then we dive in.
Absolutely. Okay.
Go
So
for it.
that was a great little synopsis about me. It's very compact. And then to open it up a little bit more details, I am located in Montreal. And so all of my experience, is right here in Montreal. I think even more specifically in the West Island. So it's great that my knowledge of the daycares here and the services here is really strong. I find like I have a good understanding of our population and the needs of the people that live here. So I'm really happy and I really am enjoying my experience in Montreal. Now, currently, I am still in daycare, but I'm working as a shadow. So I'm working as a shadow for a child with some behavioral issues. And this is on top of my teaching. So I'm teaching in the morning, I'm teaching in the evening. I'm keeping myself busy during the day with some shadowing hours for this child. Now, that being said, I think, and one of my most important or favorite things to talk about is nap time. I think, it's kind of a topic that educators and parents get nervous about. People are on different pages about the importance of nap times and how to approach nap time. It could be very stressful daytime routine for educators if they're working with children or not sleeping throughout nap. And so I think it's a good topic to kind of get myself used to this conversation with you guys about.
Well, absolutely. Wow. Tell me about it. Like, I have 3 kids. The younger one, Senna, she's a 3. This month, she's going to be 3. And tell me about it. And if she didn't take a nap during the day, the entire afternoon is very hard. Like, we can make it through it, but like everything now is sensitive. She's like just like on the edge, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely. I believe nap time is extremely important.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so okay, that
Go
kind
ahead.
of that brings me into a little bit about why is sleep important. So
I
when
was about to ask you. Okay, go ahead.
yeah.
Okay, you start the questions. Awesome.
Yes, there we go. I beat you to it. But when we think of adults, we have a recommended amount of hours of sleep that we should be doing every day. And this is different, for everyone, depending on your body's needs. But for the most part, adults need between like 6 to 9 hours of sleep per day for us to be well enough to function and to get through our days. So it's the same thing for kids. They need a certain amount of hours of sleep per day to be able to function well and to be at their prime, to be able to absorb, learn, develop, grow, and all that good stuff. So a lot of the domains in early childhood development, like the physical domain, social, emotional, are all dependent on adequate amount of sleep to develop well. Now, I think what you mentioned about your daughter is, when she doesn't sleep, it's kind of chaotic after. And this is because when children are not sleeping, when they're overly tired, they're very sensitive, right? So they're exhausted, their body's exhausted, their mind is exhausted. They need a break, but they're not able to give themselves that break, right? They're not able to regulate themselves the way that we are. So the problem and the importance of sleep is so that is to avoid getting children to that state where they're sensitive and they're, the challenging behaviors come out and they're moody. That's not who children are, and we don't want to push them to that. So the best way to avoid getting to that grouchiness is to make sure that you're incorporating nap in your daily schedule. Now, I think also, besides the emotional part of children that are exhausted, there is the physical part, right? Their bodies are also physically tired from moving. Like I was saying earlier, adults, we give ourselves breaks during the day where we sit down, we clock out of what we're doing, we give ourselves a breather, and then we clock back in. Children, they're not able to do this. So on top of their minds being tired, their body is tired too. So the sleep during the day, that little nap, it's good for the mind and the body.
Gotcha. Well,
Right.
you know what? I like to always dive deep into each point before we move to the next one. Okay, so we anchor some of these points, and hopefully by the end of the show, we always give action points, right? So here is the point here. Let me start with this question: what is the average, based on your experience? What is the average hours? How many hours these kids, let's say, from babies up to 5 years old or 6 years
Yeah.
old, let's call it.
Mhm.
Okay, what is the average sleeping time?
So babies, it's a lot more than the older kids.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. Let's just start from maybe 2 years old.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
2 to 6 years old. Okay.
Okay. So from 2 to 6, I think the average sleep that they need is between 11 to 14 hours a day. So for the most part, you can't get 14 hours of sleep overnight, right? And even if you do, it's a long time for them to be asleep overnight. It's hard to achieve. And so this is why we want to break it up. We want to do as much sleep as we could overnight, hopefully around 10 to 11 hours, and then a good solid 2 hours of sleep during the day, which is like a boost for them. It's kind of a little push, a little reset button on their days to get them through the afternoon.
Exactly. And by the way, this is almost like for my 3 kids, as of my personal experience, they always average between 9 to 10. Okay. During the night, and then 1 to 2 hours during the day. But I also realize the nap time is always once during the day. For this age group, the younger, the babies, they can take more over the day. But for this age group, it's only one time for nap time. Have you had before another situation where the kids need to sleep more than once during the day?
For the age group of 2 to 6, no, it's
No.
usually just
They're
one.
very active and their mind is just racing. They just want to keep
Exactly.
going. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yes. Another question here. Let me ask you: how to have a successful nap time as an advice?
Okay.
Okay.
So for me, I kind of look at nap as like, or I kind of call it like a recipe for nap time, and it's a
Well, I would
recipe that
love it. I would love to hear a recipe about it. Here we go.
yeah, and if you apply the recipe well, it's going to be a success. So for me, it's you really need repetition and routine, and I think the word routine is like really a key word for early childhood. As long as there's routine in children's lives, for the most part, things will go about a little bit more smoothly, and this is true for nap as well. So with my experience, what I've noticed has worked really well is doing the same thing every day. So you're at daycare, you're an educator, you're teaching in the 3 to 4 year old classroom. It's approaching nap time. So what do you do to prepare the kids for a good, healthy nap? First thing you do is after lunch, you're cleaning up, you wash your hands, you do your toileting, and then everyone's on their beds. You want to dim the lights to begin to put the body and the mind into that resting mode. Um, Even like for adults, they always say, don't be on your phone before going to bed. And set the ambiance so that your body is ready to go to bed. Don't do any work in your bedroom. Keep the bedroom for only sleep. It's the same thing for kids. We can't expect them to just turn off like a light bulb. We have to get them ready to go into a sleeping phase, a sleeping mood. So dim the lights, get their beds out, have them on their beds. They can be looking at books. They can be playing with small toys on their beds. They could be talking to friends on their beds. Whatever it is that they're doing is totally fine as long as the lights are dimmed. Now, once the classroom is all set, I like to regroup the kids kind of for a story. And usually the story is something related to bedtime, like, Halloween is approaching. So today, one of the educators that was in her classroom, she read a pumpkin goes to bed story. So it's fun because we're tying in the seasons, the holidays, and we're still incorporating the fact that after the story, we are going to go to sleep.
Nice.
So we
Uh,
read the story. Yeah,
a side point, how the pumpkin can go to sleep.
you know what? These authors get really creative.
That's amazing story.
Yeah,
Share it with me. Let me just get a sense
absolutely.
about it and read it to Sana.
Yes, yes, it's a good one. It's a good one. Everyone slept well today.
Awesome.
So,
You have another point, or may I ask?
oh, you know what? I was going to say just after the book, it's important to bring the kids back to their bed and to give them that one-on-one little attention before going to sleep. So personally, I find tucking each child in and just even a nice little pat on the back, a little good night. I'll see you when you wake up. It's warm, it's welcoming, it feels safe. So it's another little way to build their comfort about going to sleep.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great. So this advice is it's almost direct to child care directors and ECEs inside the child care. Now, I remember we touched base on this point, specifically this point, in one of the episode in the show, and we like this is where I have a question for you, okay, or to you. The point is, how hard for you to communicate all of this so the parents prepare their kids beforehand, let's say a month before when they register, okay, so it's a little bit smoother when they come, when the kids come to the child care, right? And I also realized that based on the experience talking to child care centers, some of them they have the nap time open. This is another point.
Mm.
I would love to you elaborate on it. They have the nap time almost open for each child, and some of them they have it specifically with their routine. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's touch on these 2 points.
Okay, so I think usually, when parents are signing up for childcare services, they're given a little bit of the breakdown of the day. So our routines, the time that we go to nap. And what's nice is that when they have this knowledge, they're able to adapt their home situation to prepare the child to follow the daycare schedule. So my biggest advice is to follow it, is to try your best to adapt your home situation to match the daycare schedule because you want them to be able to transition nicely.
And how far before the first day started? How far? It's a 1 month when you communicate with parents.
So it kind of depends on the center. The center that I was at most recently, those kids would sign up when they were babies. So they were like 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah. With intentions to begin at 12 months old. So that gives us
Wow.
a nice window of about 8 months for the parents to prepare the child to come into the center.
That's amazing.
And I think in Montreal, that kind of usually is the time frame. The parents know really early in advance that they will be putting their kids in childcare. And so they're registering really early. And so everyone has, plenty of notice to adapt their child to the daycare schedule.
Yeah. Well, one of the reason I'm repeating this question, even we touched base on another episode, is because you mentioned Montreal. I wanted to know in different province or different areas how they approach this. Honestly, now, okay. So basically, you give them a time. Do you also add it to the as a rule? Let's say on the website, so people, even if they're getting knowledge, they wanna really browse around, so they see which childcare they wanna sign up for. They at least know these rules, or no? After they communicate with you, after they register, they know all of them.
Oh no, it's pretty common knowledge. So for the most part, up on the website, it's very accessible to them. So if they're wanting to find a daycare that does nap from 1 to 3 or 12 to 2, for the most part, that's easy for them to find
Awesome.
on different websites. Yeah.
That's great. That's absolutely great.
Yes, it works well. It works well, and because parents in Montreal, especially kind of in Quebec, I think as a whole, since they're signing up so early, that issue of them not having enough time to transition their child, it's not a problem that we face too often.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha. And you know what? Also, a side question has nothing to do with the sleeping, but it just came up to my mind right now,
sure.
which is the language. Do you speak with the kids both languages, like French and English, or each child care center they focus in Montreal? Let's say they focus on one language, and then based on that they continue. Out of my
Um,
curiosity and my knowledge.
Yes. So basically, in Montreal, it's kind of a bit of both. So you'll find some centers. I think this goes for the majority that are fully bilingual. So they'll have some educators that are francophone and some that are anglophone, and we try for the most part to incorporate both languages in our day-to-day task. Um, and what's fun is that, in the classroom, there are children that are primarily French and primarily English, and these children are still finding ways to communicate, without speaking the same language, and they're building friendships. And when we're speaking to them in both languages, we're just helping them know how to communicate with each other.
And what and this is the reason it's fascinating, because right now at this age, and they are practicing with other kids a different language and communicating. Oh my God, this is a huge on so many levels, not just the language level, even
Absolutely.
communication.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
this
I
is
I
amazing.
love it. I love that it's very bilingual and that it's we're trying to make sure everyone's needs are covered in terms of language. It's great. That being said, there are some centers that are just English and just French, but I think that's a little bit less common than
Gotcha,
the dual languages.
gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move to the next question then. Okay, so how to deal with a child that doesn't sleep or doesn't sleep for long?
Okay, so this is a big challenge in childcare. When in Montreal or in Quebec, the ratios for a 3 to 4 year old classroom is 1 to 8. So you'll have one teacher for 8 children. So, we're not an octopus. We only have 2 arms. So we're only physically able to rub 2 children's backs at the same time. So having tools and techniques to get all the kids to stay on their beds is something that's so valuable to educators. And I think what I've done in the past that has worked for me is I place the children's bed in a way where I'm able to see all of them, or they're able to at least see me. And then for the most part, I kind of just sprawl myself out in the middle and I try to make sure everyone is able to, if they want to have skin to skin contact, they can touch me. If they want to be able to just look at me to feel safe, then I'm very visible. And if you have that good bond with your children, this is really a good tool and should be able to help you get them to sleep. Now, if you have children that are really challenging and are really, really not going to bed, then this is where you have to begin to communicate with their parents, right? You need to find out like what's happening at home during bedtime, what's their routine, can we mimic that at daycare, or how can we help each other help this child to take naps?
Yes, but before we go to the parent and communicate with them, let's start from that exact moment. We have 7 kids sleeping, and one of them keep crying, and keep it challenging. And now, what about the seven? They get annoyed and stay awake. So at this point, do you ask for assistant to come and take that specific child? Like, what is the technique? Just elaborate on this one.
Sure. For the most part, I think children in childcare services, they've learned to be able to tune things out. So I find that for the most part, they don't all wake up. Especially if it's just one child who's kind of being a little silly on their bed, making a little bit of sounds with their fingers. It's not as disturbing to the other kids as we think it would be. Something that I do use in my class to be able to make sure the other kids are staying asleep is I use a background noise. So sometimes when I was working with the babies, I was using a white noise machine. This would kind of make other sounds disappear. And then for the older kids, I'll use lullabies. Also using the same tune every day. It's another way to tell their body like, okay, this is on, so let's go into rest mode.
Nice. By the way, I believe almost 7 months ago, I heard this feedback, which is like someone like really asked me, okay, we really would love to have inside UKU video platform a white noise clip.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And we did that. We did like a couple of them. One of them, let's say, fully really plain white noise. One of them like water. Uh,
Yes.
so we did a couple of them just because someone really asked, and they said it's helped a lot on daily basis if we
Oh,
can play that.
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
And
awesome.
before I started working with children, uh, I didn't understand the value of it. And now I think white noise is like the best tool that you could use when things are difficult.
Yeah, totally, totally. My all three kids, they always like used to sleep on some type of noise or white noise, and like you said, they tune out. But again, until like a couple months ago, I realized that they even need it in the child care, so we
Yeah,
just added it. So that's awesome. You know what? The power of feedback is just so amazing that we can
absolutely.
surf to the next level. That's amazing. Okay, awesome. Let's go to the next one. I would love always here in this show. I would love to have some real life examples. Okay.
Sure.
So if you can give us, let's say, a few examples, and then put the techniques in action based on
Yeah,
what you saw in your life example. Uh,
sure.
let's do that, and then we go to the action points.
Okay. So I think when I think of nap time problems in daycare, there's one child that really comes to mind that has really stood out in my memory. Because this child, his name is Ben, and he was no, he was 4 in this classroom. And he had stopped napping at daycare and at home since he was about 2.5, which we know is really, really young. Like, really, at this age, they need to be sleeping. Their bodies need it for so many reasons. So he came into my classroom, and so I had a meeting with mom and dad, and they said, "Oh, he doesn't nap." And I said, "Okay, like, do you mind if I still try to get him to nap in my class? And maybe it's a different teacher, a different environment. Maybe it will work." So at the beginning, he was really not willing to even try. So he didn't want to lay down. He wanted nothing to do with it. Eventually, it took me about 4 months, but 4 months, and I did the same thing every day to the point, I was so in the routine that I would even use the same words. So every day I would be like, okay, Ben, it's bedtime. All the friends are sleeping. The quiet lights are on. The music is on. I know that Ben does not want to sleep, but your body is telling me you're tired. So what would you like to play with on your bed quietly while the rest of the friends are resting? So at first he would go and he would choose a quiet toy. I would have specific toys that he could play with. And this is kind of one of my really good tips that I like to give educators. It's to have what I call bed boxes. And so this is kind of a little kit of quiet toys that they can manipulate, that they could play with, that is going to help them stay quiet on their bed while everybody else is resting. And it also allows them to rest a little bit.
Yes, and are they gonna be connected to that exact toy in the future? Like really have connection with that toy? Like let's say for this child, did he end up always asking for that toy even at home or no?
Yes and no. So the toys that I would offer, I have a lot of sensory toys. So I made sensory bottles with glow sticks or oil, and it was like a snow globe looking bottle. So I made different things like this with him. And I told him, okay, if you're quiet on your bed, I can give you a few of these and you could play with them. Over the 4 months, he started to fall asleep while playing because the toys I would provide him with were so calming that his body went into rest mode and then he would fall asleep. So it was nice to see that we needed to just find the technique for Ben. He wasn't a child that could just say, "Yeah, I'm tired. I'm going to go for a nap." He needed us to really guide him and to push him into his nap. So, I felt really good when I got him to sleep the first time. His parents didn't believe me. And what was nice is once I found what worked for him, I was able to give his parents those tools and they were able to get him to sleep at home as well
Wow.
with the same toys.
Wow. That's awesome. And the average sleeping time at that child care is an hour or two.
So for the most part in Montreal, it's about 2 hours for a
Nice.
nap.
Well,
Yeah.
their body really getting so much rest during these hours. They
Oh,
just
absolutely.
recharge. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So that's
absolutely awesome. You
that's
know what?
Ben.
I would love to emphasize a like, let's call it the golden word that you just used. Uh, there are two of them. Consistency and routine are the golden in this age group. Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree. Consistency and routine, and like it's applicable to nap, but to everything else in their
Everything.
lives as well.
Oh, totally. Everything.
Yeah,
Just keep doing it and make it as a routine. They're just gonna used to it. Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Any other specific advice that you can give at the childcare before we go to action points?
Oh, okay. At the for the childcare, I think when you are deciding what your routine will be for nap, I find that, sometimes we try to implement things, and if they're not working, we kind of give up or we change. I think a good advice is to stick through it, allow the children to see that it's a routine and allow them to actually see if they'll take to it or not. So, 2 weeks, it's not enough time for us to build a routine. So push through and try to be consistent for at least a month. And, if after 4 weeks it's not working, then you can maybe switch it up. But persevere would be my advice.
Well, that's amazing. You just answered my question. What is the, let's call it the time frame where we think to reconsider or change the activity or whatever tool we are using? You just said a month.
Yes.
This is the average.
Yes.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. Let's wrap up with a few action points. Let's
Sure.
make them like snaps that
Yeah.
we can take and write for this exact topic.
Okay, so I think, and this is another tool, making a bed chart has really worked wonders for me. And so, what a bed chart is, it is kind of an overview of the classroom on paper, with the location of the furniture, but on this chart is the where each child's bed goes. So adding to routine, adding to consistency is putting the child's bed at the same place every day. When we are doing this, then they begin to know what that area looks like from a laying down position. So it's adding to their safety, it's adding to their comfort, and it's adding to the predictability of nap time. So yes, a bed chart is great for educators to make. And that way, if ever you have a day off, whoever is replacing you in the classroom knows exactly what to do. And it's easier for them to follow your routine when you're giving them those tools as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what? Even for us adults,
Yes.
right? Like you see that, like I'm talking about myself here. I always sleep at the same side of the bed, honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I always take the same position when I sit because this is who we are, right? And I believe that's a very smart idea. Like I never thought about it that when I take, let's say, my daughter to sleep, that I have to see her own perspective to the room or to, but that's awesome. Maybe I don't because she has her own room, right? But like, in
Exactly.
your situation, it's awesome because absolutely you're gonna ease it out when you are off and
Mhm.
someone else coming in to adapt your routine for that day or two.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. That's a
And
very good one.
yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. And I have to say, I can't take credit for that one. This was a tool that an educator friend that gave me. And I think it's the best tool she's ever given me. So I'm really
Wow.
grateful for that.
Wow. So you give her the credit and we give you the credit because you give this
Exactly.
show.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. What other action point you have for
The
us?
other action point would be to create bed boxes at the beginning of the year. So it's simple to do because all you need for a bed box is any type of container with a lid. So I've gone to the closest dollar store, I've gotten a couple of those, and then create quiet activities. So a few examples of quiet activities could be something like moon sand in a Ziploc, that's taped shut for safety. It could be any type of sensory bottle that you make with the children. It could even be something simpler like papers and wax crayons. I've given them board books. I've given them rubrics, cubes, any type of toy that they are manipulating, but that is quiet. I think if you set your classroom up with these tools, that way when you need to implement it, it's quick. You go and you grab one, you give it to the child, and you say, I know that you're not ready to sleep yet, but this is what you're going to play with while everybody else is resting.
That's
So
awesome.
you're preparing yourself for future issues that you could bump into.
That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Okay, that's great. Give us more. I'm enjoying it. Wow, this is very, very valuable action points.
Great, good, great. And then going back on the communication with the parents, this too is an important action point. And what I do at the beginning of the year when I have new children coming into my class, new families, people that I need to get to know, is I always send home a get to know me paper. And so on this, I ask a lot of things like how many siblings do they have? Do they have any pets? Do they have any favorite foods? But part of my questionnaire is also how do they sleep at home? So give me a little bit of a walk through how they go to bed. Are there specific things that they like? Some children need a hug before going to bed, and others really don't want you to touch them. So tell me a little bit about your child. That way I have the upper hand when I'm trying to get them to go to sleep. So have that pre-existing knowledge about the children. That way, again, you're setting yourself up for success with these kids.
Wow. That's absolutely great. 2 points, 2 feedbacks right away.
Yes.
And the first feedback, this is my first time I hear this action point, let's call it, or this how to know me.
Yes.
A chart. This is amazing. If you may share with me the questionnaire,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
we create a very nice design, and we also share it here for other ECEs and what we call it, childcare directors.
Yes.
Okay, that would be awesome. Okay,
Sure.
this is the number one. Number two, as a feedback, do you allow the kids to have let's say a blanket from home or a stuffy like? It just came to my mind because you are asking about details what happened at home. Do you allow to bring some stuff from there, that transition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I like to tell the children that they can bring two things from their homes. It's a bit of it's a risky door to open because once you say, okay, you could bring a tutu or a doo from your house, they might bring in 100. And so we don't have space for 100 for each child. So I limit it to two, to a blanket and a pillow or a stuffy that they really enjoy. Any comfort item that they really have an attachment to, I'm very welcoming for that object to come into the class. I think it's important for the children to be able to also connect home and daycare.
Totally.
Yeah,
My point is, this is like the blanket and the pillow. You count these, or they can have two inside the class, and these always they're gonna stay inside their bed.
so this kind of it depends a little bit as well on the center. So for my center, for example, all the children have the same bedding, and that's provided by the daycare. So everyone has sheets and a blanket and a pillow. Now, the extra stuff that they bring from home, this is something that can stay at daycare for the week, and on Friday it goes home, it gets washed, and it comes back. Or it can go to and from daycare on a daily basis. That's really dependent on the child and what they prefer, but absolutely two items that they are comfortable with and that will provide comfort to them if ever they're sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's absolutely good. Absolutely. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel that transition connection. Wow. Okay. Any other action points?
Anything else? I feel like those are some good starting points.
Yeah.
If you're building up yourself with those tools to lead to
Yeah.
success and you're being consistent, you're
Yeah.
falling into a routine, then I don't see why it won't work.
Yes, and give it time. Give it fair
Yes,
enough time for the kids to adapt and use it and become a habit.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time coming today. That was very awesome. And like I love how you just give us some very nice snaps, action points, and work for them in action right away.
Yes, I hope so, and I hope it works.
It will. It's just a matter of time.
Yes,
Thank you so
exactly.
much again for your time. Okay, guys, this is your host, Khalid Farouk Hayek with Urban Kids Universe. And this is the UKU Impacting Education Show. And today's topic was about nap time and how important it is. Until next time, cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.